So do we have everyone?
So Ravi,
Yeah.
you have mentioned that this is in deploy in product-like environment. So staging, we do it. So before staging, in which environment they actually do the development? It's a development environment, or what is that?
Yeah, so that's called development environment. And then you deploy in SIT environment, then you'll have a UAT environment.
Okay.
Some
So
organization they'll use like the same environment for everything. It depends, but generally, at least I have seen like different environments at different stages.
yeah, I have done it. Means the same thing in every one environment only.
Yeah,
Creation,
that's
testing,
common.
everything. That is
Yeah,
why I
common.
asked you.
But production also same thing, or you do it in production directly, or you have a different environment?
No. It is directly means production. We don't do it. Production we don't do it. But again, it is not in a development kind of a scenario. We do it in a kind of a staging kind of a scenario.
Yeah.
Okay. So only that is done on Sundays. Apart from that, everything is in one environment.
Okay, but at least when you're explaining in the interview, right? Don't say that you're doing everything in the same environment. Okay. So Mavisha, are you there?
Yeah, just joined Ravi. I'm again off the
Actually,
track.
we didn't cover much. Okay, so we didn't cover anything. So that's
Okay. I thought you were going through TVT, right? So I thought I missed the track.
And Ravi, as far as this TVT and PVT is concerned, how much coverage we done during this process?
just a basic coverage to make sure. So it's technical verification and business verification, right? Very small. For example, let's say if you're upgrading an internet banking application, so we'll ask a customer to do like ₹1 transfer. Okay. Or for example, let's say if you're working on a trading application, right? So you ask customer to book a trade with a small amount. Very small.
So since we are, updating the overall application, but the first time, do we only done just basic verification and PVT? Because the first time, don't we have to cover each and every scenario?
Yeah, actually, so basically
before moving to production.
So if it depends on the application, if it's like an internal application, and then let's say you just need read-only access, right? And then you go and verify like different screens where you don't need to input anything. But if you're working on a sensitive trading application, so what we do is we normally create a dummy customer and then just book a trade and see how it is working. For example, let's say the reason we don't do like full end-to-end testing is, for example, if you book a trade against an original customer and then you send a confirmation, okay, and then you send the settlement, so then tomorrow your application would be audited and people will question you, so why this was sent, okay, and a customer will not be okay for you to send a dummy trade, right? So you have all these issues and you can't test most of the functionalities unless you have a production like customer.
Okay, right. You know why I just asked, because we does similar kind of validation, but what we does, we move test social. Test social into the production environment and do all type of verification at the first time at least. Overall coverage.
So if your application supports, you can do like as much as possible. But if your application is not supporting, right, if it's not feasible, then you do minimal testing. This is to make sure at least the risk. So for example, if you don't do TVT or BVT, right, and if your customer is not able to do any of the critical functions, then you will be in trouble. At least here at this stage, you can easily roll back, right? The scope is again changing from different application to, if it's an internal application and you can do all the basic testings, that's fine. So you can do as well. But the
also sometimes like some customer doesn't allow to keep a test social in this environment. So what we does, we normally remove those test social after we does this TVT and BVT.
Yeah, correct. So similarly, what we do is, so I work on a foreign exchange trading platform. So what we do is we have a dummy customer, and to activate the dummy customer, we take like various risk approvals and do all the config. Then we book the trade, and then after we book the trade, we cancel the trade, and then we deactivate that customer till the next release. And then we take all the evidences, give it to the risk team that, okay, it is deactivated. So likewise, you can define a process. The objective is to minimize the risk of failover, identifying any issues early, and then deciding whether you want to roll back or not. Okay, so when you have no issues here, after TVT and BVT, no issues, then what happens is you do the production monitoring for a few days. So how's your change working? So you'll take the user feedback if everything is working fine or not. And then you will do a PIR once it's done. So PIR stands for post-implementation review. So this is where, so you will discuss the overall change. So what went well, what can be improved, lessons learned, and all of that is done. Okay, so once this is done, then you have your you define your next big actions, and you will next big improvements, and you will also track business value. Okay, so this is an important step that a lot of business analysts miss, because you initially, when you prepared the business case, right, you told the management that, okay, so there is a certain business value that we are generating by upgrading this application, right? A lot of times that is only limited to preparing the business case. Okay, but when you put this additional effort in tracking and making sure that your change is actually delivering business value, and you track this over a period of time and showcase it, right, that will get you a lot of visibility. Okay, so these are like different activities that at least I have done in various projects. So most of these steps are like pretty standard. This is how the flow goes through. Just like how Anshuman asked, right? So sometimes we do additional steps like RFP, vendor assessment, gap analysis, etc. But more or less, this is the workflow that you need to explain when somebody asks you, or you need to follow in your work. Okay. So any questions from anyone?
Ravi, just one thing here. The different parts, actually, the process starts, then stakeholder, everything is from business analytics point of view. Stakeholder, requirement gathering, installation, development, installation will be by the development team, right?
Correct.
Then
Yeah.
unit testing is by development, deploys by development, SIT is by the normal QA, normally they do it. UAT is by BA. Again.
So SIT, you can have a QA to do it, or a BA can also do it. Okay. So sometimes what happens is a lot of these investment banks and other organizations these days, right, they don't have the concept of a QA, because the concept of QA is slowly fading out. So you have a BA maybe doing SIT.
Okay. Okay, then UAT again,
think,
it is normally. Hello?
I think even as far as SIT is concerned, BA has to review all the scenario and test cases.
Yeah.
And assist QA team to validate all this.
Yeah, so he has to prepare the traceability metrics and all of that.
But again, Ravi, this SIT is system integration testing, right?
Yeah.
So integration wise, what a BA will kind of know, because that becomes little bit of technical stuff is there, right?
So you will not say, okay, so how it is integrated to other systems. For example, you will not say, okay, test JMS messaging or API or database connectivity, etc. So you will know the business flow, right? For example, let's say if you're trying to purchase a book on Amazon, okay? So what happens when you purchase a book? It will go to the payment gateway, right? So what is that? That is SIT. So making sure that the payment is, when you click on buy now, it takes you to the payment gateway and then you make the payment and then it comes back to the order screen, right? So that is the SIT. And for that is, which is why you prepare this HLSA with your solution architect, where you understand what are the different upstream and downstreams and business flows.
So my confusion is that SIT and UAT, how does it differ actually? Because again, UAT also at the end product, if we take the same example, we will be kind of going through means to buy a product in Amazon. Again, it is kind of the same scenario, like if it is actually going to a processing for the payment or not. That again, we can check it on the UAT itself.
Yeah, so the difference is, so SIT you will not, so for example, in the, let's take this Amazon example itself. So what about the search functionality? So let's say if I search for a book, is it coming up or not? Okay, so if I delete an order, is it deleting or not, even before it goes to the payment gateway?
Okay.
So is it covered in SIT? That's not covered, right? So it's covered in UAT. Because you're not talking to any other upstream or downstream system, right? In this case, a simple search functionality, you're doing it just within the application, right?
Okay, so it's a kind of system integration is kind of integration with all the systems.
Yeah,
that
correct.
we have to check.
Correct.
And UAT is the means a user point of view, if the exact means the action has been performing or not.
Yeah, so all the actions that I need my system to perform are working fine or not. So I'm not interested in, okay, so whether my upstream or downstream is working fine or not. I want my system to do whatever I expect it to do.
Okay. Anyways, it's a kind of a subsystem of UAT then, SIT. I would rather say that.
Because
Yeah, kind
of, but
it's
focus
part of
more on integration piece. Focus
okay.
more on integration.
So
And
then,
so, yeah, so and
that's
UAT
okay.
is done by the user, whereas the SIT is done mostly by the IT teams.
So user again, we means the BA can normally takes it up with the users, right? They or they directly do it. Because I have done it.
BA will facilitate. BA will facilitate. For
That is
example,
okay.
you have to set up the environment. You have to give them credentials. If they don't understand the new functionality, they will contact you. Okay, so you have to guide them, and so you have to facilitate these discussions with them.
Okay. After this, the demo test result comes. Then the demo test result again, the BA has to go to the stakeholders to exactly portray how exactly it is working, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And then take a sign off from the stakeholders that yes, everything is okay.
Yeah.
Then it comes to training the application. Training the application will be by the developer, right?
Training on the application will be on the new application for end users will be done by the business analyst, or if there is any SME from the product side, right? Whoever is implementing, they will do. But generally training is done by the business analyst because he has already developed like good understanding on the application.
So again, it is by BA. Then run sheet, run book. So that is by developer, you told, right? But BA has to ensure that it is updated.
Yeah, BA
so
has to ensure a
scenario.
completeness also.
Just he has to check it, but it will be done by the developer.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Then go meeting is by again the developer.
By the BA. So BA will present like everything, including run sheet. So he will tell what are the risks, so how likely it will fail, or so how are they mitigating the risk, when is it planned, so and all of that, and then he will describe everything in that meeting. And so finally the business users and the sponsor, they will say go or no go. So no go in the sense they will say, okay, For example, let's say if you're deploying a high frequency trading application and you have election results on the same day, right? So a business user may say, no, we expect huge trade volumes on this day. So we don't want you to go on that day. So postpone it to some other day. Okay. Or maybe they will say, oh, you found some defects, and here the business users have said, okay, so we are happy with these defects. These are like low priority issues. But when you walk through with larger audience, they will say, no, we are not happy with these issues. So fix these issues and then come back. Okay. So again, you will go back to the development stage. Also, the other thing in the UAT phase, what happens is when the users identify any issues, right? A business analyst will validate if they are real issues or if it's a change in the requirement or if it's a user understanding issue. So that is also another critical role which a user will play in the UAT phase.
Then comes the TBT again by BVT by the user, and that the
TBT by the
technical
technical support team. Technical
yeah,
support.
that is again by the developer.
Yeah.
Then comes the track the business value.
No, the track business value is at the last, right?
Okay.
Production.
Okay. So then deploy and staging is done again by the developer. Software and the production again by the developer. TBT is done by the technical, VBT by the user. No issues. Production monitoring is by BA and the technical team, I suppose.
No.
Both.
So BA, so once this application goes into production, right, then it is done. Okay. So think of a BA like a sales guy. So what happens is once you fill in the credit card application form, right, will you see him anytime? No, right? So
No.
it's like that. So once the product is deployed in production, then a BA will move to another project, except for we'll just do the post implementation review, and then we'll also track the business value.
Okay, so after the TVT, after the deployment, software is deployed in the production. After that, the production monitoring and TVT, those are not done. Again, directly only the last phase is there. Post-implementation review and the track of business value.
Yeah, correct.
So track business value is just done by the BA to implement, means kind of show the impact. So
correct.
It's nothing related to the project, but yeah, it's a kind of a document, I suppose.
But it's a very important thing to do because see, a lot of times we do a lot of things, but we don't show what is the value that it's generating. Okay, and this is the step the out of BAs miss. And in my opinion, this is the most important step that a BA has to do. Because you have put all the hard work, right? If you don't track business value and showcase what value you delivered to senior management, right? You're losing a lot of visibility here.
Correct.
Yeah.
So Ravi, what happens if we get any issues during TVT, BVT? What is the flow then? We go back to which step?
We roll back. The flow is like roll back. So maybe I'll just add a connector. So it goes back to the development stage here.
Okay. And what is the typical timeline? What is the typical life cycle of this whole entire process for a BA? Average on an average.
Actually, so it depends. So if you're doing a waterfall, right, this whole thing can go like 1 year, 2 years, 6 months, 3 months also. But if you're following Agile or Scrum, right, it depends on your sprint cycle. So, so for us, in my case, right, so every two weeks we repeat this process. Every 2 weeks we deliver a software in production.
Okay.
Ravi, I have a question.
Yeah.
So after requirement gathering, how do you finalize the sign off?
Oh, that's a good question. So you can, you will email the requirement document that you've prepared, right, to the business users and ask them to sign off on email. And normally what I've experienced is when you ask them for sign off, right, nobody signs off. Okay, so that is the very common issue. And so normally what I do is I schedule a meeting and then I walk through the requirements in that meeting. And then I take a commitment from the users. Okay, so are you happy to sign up and commit? And once they say, okay, yes, we are happy, then I immediately send an email for sign off and get it signed off.
Okay, what in case if after sign off, if they come back and they see that you need to add one more requirements, it's priority requirement, will we add the requirements to existing or?
So it depends. Okay, so if you're following waterfall methodology, right, then
Okay.
you will decide what is the impact on the delivery timeline, what is the scope of this, what is the increase in effort. Okay, but that's why to avoid such issues, we are following Scrum. So probably I'll cover this topic in detail when we are looking at Scrum, Avisha. So why we actually follow Scrum and how such changes can be facilitated when we follow Scrum.
Okay.
Okay, so the next thing is, so can anyone volunteer and then explain this flow end to end? And so don't worry if you make any mistakes. So it's better to make mistakes here in this session rather than in interview or at your work, right? So it's a good opportunity if anyone is interested to explain this flow end to end.
I can go ahead, but in case if I'm wrong, just
No,
correct me.
that's okay.
So the business analyst, he looks like he prepares a business case, kind of estimation, budget, and the details requirement. He kind of prepared a rough order. Once he prepared, then the next step he takes is
Can
high level assessment.
Bhavisha, so can you get, so I think you missed few points. Maybe let's do this way. Okay, so let's do like, so once you do a step, right, we can ask anyone on any other points to cover. Okay, so
Yeah,
maybe that
sure.
way we'll ensure completeness. Anyone,
Everyone covered it.
you know, any other points to cover?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
We also cover the what are the benefits by doing this project, and also the opportunity cost, and we also estimate what will be the production cost, and and we basically get connected with the other stakeholders and get the estimation, like the security team, operations team, and like you mentioned, we do the order of magnitude.
Yeah, that's good. Anyone else? Anything else to add? No. Yeah. Yeah. Carry on, Bhavisha.
Yeah. Hello. Oh,
Yeah,
do I need to?
Yes, the second.
Explain full.
So after this is done, so let's assume the business case is approved. So what is the next?
Yeah. So the next step is after approval, the high level security that we check with the regulatory requirements. So whether it's feasible this product functionality.
No.
Right? I'm wrong.
No. Anyone else?
It's a high level architecture diagram that we do for the whole project.
Yeah. So
We do it with the solution architect. They
yeah.
give us what are the upstream and downstream screens that will be there. The technical part is checked here.
Yeah. Is that clear, Bhavisha, to you?
Yeah, I'm getting it.
Okay. So just ask questions. Okay. So if you're confused, so just.
So what was it again? I'm writing
So what
down.
happens is HLSA stands for high level security assessment, right? So once you have the business case, here we are upgrading the application, right? So that means the architecture of the application may change, right? So we engage a solution architect. We tell him, okay, so this is the application. This is the new application that we'll be upgrading. So you will be already having an architecture document, right? Where It will tell you what are the different components in the application and then how they are connected with other upstreams and downstreams. So the architect will design a to-be architecture, and you will be updating this document. So this is one of the artifacts we'll produce as a business analyst along with the solution architect.
Okay.
Does it make sense or are you confused?
Yeah, it's making sense, but takes time to understand. Again, I'll go and watch the video.
Yeah, okay. So what
So
happens next? Yeah.
yeah, I request someone to carry on.
Okay.
I'll take down the notes.
Okay, okay. Yeah. Who, any volunteers too? So don't be afraid, because this is, so we are learning, right? So
So
Yeah, I do
then the
understand.
next one is the stakeholder analysis, where we will be checking with the different stakeholders like network, server, the database, security, all those stuffs we will be kind of taking up.
so what do we do in the stakeholder analysis?
So we kind of take up the different kind of get in touch with the different stakeholders to know their viewpoints on the what requirement kind of. Before going for a requirement gathering, we kind of engage with them.
Okay. So any other points from anyone on why we do?
So basically, during that stakeholder analysis, we gather the all the internal and external stakeholder list.
Yeah. So why do we need to gather that?
So basically, we have to understand what are the various stakeholders that involved during this implementation, and how to convince that what are the various stakeholders that would be help in implementing the change.
Yeah, correct. So we also identify the stakeholders' influence and interest. Okay, so how powerful is that stakeholder? What is his influence and what is his interest level in that project? And then we will design a stakeholder management strategy accordingly. So how we design that, we'll look at in the future topics, how to design, what strategy we need to design based on the influence, and so how to design a strategy for high influence and high interest stakeholder, low interest and low influence stakeholder, etc. And so another important question that people may ask you and you may find in at your work is, so how do you do, so when you were newly joined an organization, right, and you don't know much about stakeholders, so how do you actually gather list of stakeholders? Can you explain how did you gather in your project? So this is a common question that people may ask, because this is when they will know, right, whether you actually prepared a stakeholder list or not. So any
So
ideas?
basically, when we joined the
Yeah.
So when we joined a new project, generally somebody we have to hand it over. So
Yeah.
based on that and from the historical data, we capture that information.
Yeah. Any other sources?
Ravi, can you repeat the question?
So the question is, so you have joined a new project as a business analyst, and then you said you perform stakeholder analysis. You gathered a list of all the stakeholders, right? How did you do that? Can you explain what sources did you use?
So we'll see who the project sponsors are. We from the business side, who will be supporting it from the technical team, whether it's a general manager, then who all will be involved in the downstream activities apart from the leadership team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So normally what I do is, right, so I pick up who are the sponsors and who are the actual business leads, and then I go and look up them in the organization directory. Okay, so employee directory. Then I will get a list of hierarchy, right? So I'll use the organization charts and then the employee directories to find out who are the list of stakeholders for that business line. Okay, and that is one source, the organization directory and organizational charts. The other source is by conducting interviews. So you identify a stakeholder, right, who will be involved in the project. You conduct an informal interview with that stakeholder, and then you ask, okay, who else should I involve? Then they will give you like 2-3 other names. Then you talk to them, and then you get a full list. Okay, so two main sources are, so when you look at the organization chart, and then the directories, and then when you conduct interviews. Yep. Anshuman, can you?
Yeah. So it's like, one is organization chart and directory, other one is stakeholder interview. So stakeholder interview, one, we will be going ahead with one person and then getting the other names directly from him.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. So then the stakeholder, then the requirement gathering phase comes, where we will be kind of doing again this interview kind of scenario, or different elicitations that we have formats. We will be kind of going through that and doing a requirement gathering from the stakeholders.
Yeah.
Then once that is done,
yeah.
Once that is done, we will be
Ravi,
doing
Anshuman, just somebody has a question. Thank you.
Okay.
So Ravi, during the requirement gathering phase, so generally we prepared business requirement document and functional specification document. Is there other artifact that we prepare during this phase?
So these two are prepared when in a waterfall setup. Okay. And 99% of the projects now are not waterfall. They're all agile. So in agile, we only prepare one document or one artifact, which is called user story.
Okay.
So in
and we
user
also
story,
define the acceptance.
Yeah, you would write the user story, we define the acceptance criteria. So that's exactly what we'll look at in the Agile Foundation, right? How to write user stories and what we write. The BRD and functional specification, right? That is a history now. At least I have not written BRD like very frequently in the last few years. You write BRDs only when you have like really contractual agreements, right? Or if it's a very tight regulatory requirement, then you have to stick to BRD, get sign off and all of that. Otherwise, mostly it's user stories. Yeah.
And just one question, like if we are following the agile methodology, so if I talk about the traditional method, we have a functional specification document, and do we prepare technical design document, or that is a part of technical team?
So that is technical design document or interface specification document and all, right? So these are prepared by your development team and design team. So these are all like different documents that you can possibly have, but we will not be preparing them. Yeah, Anshuman, you want to proceed? Yeah.
Okay, so after requirement gathering, we do a sign off with the stakeholder. And once that is done, then we go ahead with the development team for starting the development. The development, what is that called? Environment.
Yeah.
They start the development. Once that is done, then we go ahead with the unit testing on the which is done by the developers. Then we go ahead with the deployment of the software on the system integration testing platform. Which is again, after that is done, where either the QA or the BA will be doing a kind of a testing.
Okay.
And then the BA goes for once that is done, the BA goes for a user acceptance testing in collaboration with the users. They kind of guide them for the user testing. We then do the put across the details of the results that we do on the user acceptance testing to the stakeholders, and then take a sign off. Once that is done, the training for the application is done. Training to the users will be given by the BA, And run sheet on the run book.
Anshuman, maybe, so I think you're doing well. Probably anyone else wants to try from here after the training is done. What happens? Hello?
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ravi, we have to start from here.
Yeah. So
Training on
after
the
the
new
training, yeah.
application.
So after training, yeah.
So after the training, we have to prepare the run sheet and run book with all the results. And then
Actually, no. So run sheet or run book, right? Is not all the results. So it will have all the deployment steps. Okay. So it will detail on how the software should be actually deployed in production, step-by-step instructions.
oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah. So the developer will prepare, but as a BA, we'll review it and ensure that it's complete. Yeah. Yeah. Then.
Then we will conduct a go or no go meeting.
Yeah.
During that meeting, we'll just walk through the system and various statistics based on the SIT and UIT.
Yeah.
And based on that, we decide we have to just go live or we have to just roll it back.
Yeah.
Once we receive the go ahead, then we have to perform technical verification as far as and business verification.
Yeah.
And once we are done with that, then we have to deploy in the production like environment that generally we call it staging or just sometimes it call it replica also.
Yeah. Yeah.
Replica of
Prod replica, or yeah, prod like. Yeah.
Yeah. So once we deploy that, then the next step is can you scroll right?
Yeah. The software is delivered or deployed in production.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And so then we do the TVT or BVT. So TVT, we ensure all the technical tests are done. BVT, we do ensure that all the important functionalities are tested, and then we secure the change. If there are any issues, we roll back. If no issues, then we monitor the change in production for a few days, right? And then finally, we do a post-implementation review and identify improvements and lessons learned. And then we work on the next big improvements based on the PIR, and we also track business value, which is the most important thing. Okay, so I think, yeah, so this is on the end-to-end business analysis activities. So by now you must have got a high level understanding, right? So we'll build on this understanding and we'll start getting into details in the next few sessions.
I have a
last
question.
Yeah.
So when we are asked in interview, so are we supposed to tell each and every step of this end-to-end step, or is there any?
Yeah, so you have to. So generally, in interview, right, the question comes this way. Okay, so can you take any of your recent project or recent requirement and tell me what you did end to end? Okay, so how did you deploy that requirement in production? That's how the question may come in the interview. And so you need to explain it end to end, because this is where the interviewer will judge whether you have a thorough end-to-end understanding of business analysis or not. If you just say, okay, so I gather requirements, I talk to the developer, and then I put the change in production, right? So they will think, okay, you don't have in-depth or real hands-on understanding. So you need to explain each of these steps, maybe summarize it in like 5 minutes. This will actually decide the course of your interview. This question, the way you answer, right, it will be the deciding factor for the interview.
Ravi, this TVT and BBT testing, we do it in production environment or is on
Yeah,
testing?
production.
Okay.
Production to secure the change before all the users log in